All right. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to week 2 of Pursuit for Purpose. Man, guys, I got to let each and every one of you know that you hold a very special place in my heart for being here and giving your time. Hoping to take something back into your life and use it to better yourself. I applaud you for wanting to be a part of your own rescue. I say this at times, and that I don't mean to go too deep, but I'm over it. It just must be said here now that we no longer get to worry about what others think and whether or not our beliefs are too strong for others. Life is deep. It's full of choices, and many of those choices do not lead us down the road that we wish to go. I'd recently heard that when moments of decision and commitment bring you to the crossroads of choosing between the winning and losing road, you must always choose the winning road because nothing that we care about becoming is down that losing road. There are other people here that weren't in that first Zoom meeting, so I'm going to go ahead and give you a brief synopsis of what it is that we're doing here. Pursuit for Purpose has come to life with you in mind. We're trying to help feed you the simple, powerful principles, pillars, disciplines, and perspectives that will assist you in making the best decisions that lead you towards molding yourself into the human that you know you want to be. There have been roadmaps that have been laid before us in many different fashions, and we will learn from those who have prospered and succeeded using these same principles. Maybe this is your right time to start working on yourself a little bit more than you have in the past. This week, we will be discussing the pillar topic of discipline. Discipline is something that every single one of us as an athlete, coach, or parent understands as a crucial point towards learning the needed skills to get to where we want to go. But the bigger picture of why discipline is such a catalyst to who we can become is that we possess a tool in self-discipline and our sport of choice that can be used to benefit the other non-sporting areas of our lives, which at the end of the day is exactly what matters most: personal preparation for life. If we're choosing to ignore the disciplines we learn in our sport and not translate that into our education, our physical fitness, our nutrition, and our spirituality, then guys, I think that we're missing the point of why we're growing through these challenges in our sport. And I realize not everyone has gotten a chance to watch some of the videos that were recommended, but they're starting points of conversation to hopefully drive interactive discussion. I will post these here in the chat, and you can view them at a different time, and I'm more than happy to be able to take some time in a one-on-one virtual or a phone-based setting to talk about any opinions or discussions that you guys want to have. I apologize that I've been a little long-winded in my intro, but I got a little bit more to go, especially to communicate to you guys that this stuff is way easier to teach than it is to do. I'm in process myself constantly, and I'm going to remain so my whole life because discipline is an everyday choice, as is the process of bettering yourself. Zig Ziglar likes to say that you can finish your education, you can even make it easy, but you'll never stop learning. I will be continuing to quote others like Zig Ziglar, Inky Johnson, Les Brown, John Maxwell, Jim Rohn, Jesus Christ, Tony Robbins, and many, many others, because the work that they've done is valuable and full of wisdom. Another thing that Zig Ziglar likes to say is the person who can't read is really just as well off as the person who can read and chooses to do nothing about it. Top of the legends before us that will be quoted, one of the beautiful parts about the community we are building is that we'll be joined weekly by a guest already in process of their own journey that also bases much of what they do on the fundamental principles that we might be talking about. We get to be students, guys, not followers. So take the information you hear, see where it hits you in your life, and apply it, alter it, adjust, and adapt as needed that best suits you. Now we get to the fun. Guys, seriously, we got a good one today. I still don't get it myself how people, and especially our guests, have been so welcoming to just a guy with a dream, but I can tell you this: in one action of kindness, he's built an avalanche of good that will grow into this world because each of us has the opportunity now to take that same kindness and welcoming nature to the others that are on their own journey. And you better believe it only fuels my own genuine desire to assist as many people as I can in the same welcoming manner that he has to me. Our guest tonight has been a proponent of mental training for the past 30 plus years. And I felt like it was a great guest to bring in to talk about the topic of discipline. As what I will call the godfather of mental development and arm care in the sport of baseball, we have all benefited from the work he has poured into his own life, all for you to intentionally increase your own abilities, both mentally and physically. He's worked with countless professionals, including Cy Young winner Barry Zito, and I have to believe that the best of what he can offer the athletic community and the mental development community is still ahead of him. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Alan Jaeger of Jaeger Sports to the program. Alan, thanks a ton for being on, man. The floor is yours.
Well, first of all, Kirk, thank you for having me on, and obviously what you're doing in this community to spread such an important message of mental health, mental well-being, development. That's why coaches coach. And I would argue that's why players play. You know, we're all trying to get better. We're all trying to develop to be, the best version of ourselves as we can. Ironically, when you brought this principle up to me, it was really one of those moments in my life that got my attention, because I feel like I need to work on my discipline. And I wrote a book back in the 90s, and the book has 8 chapters, and one of the chapters, chapter 7, I believe, maybe chapter 5, but anyway, the chapter is called Discipline. And I look back to the beginnings of my writings, and to think that an entire chapter of 8 chapters was devoted to the word discipline, it helped me really reconnect to that. And so I feel like I want to learn as much from this about, and I want to develop as well going forward, because we're all, look, as you said, Kirk, we're all trying to get better. We're all trying to work on stuff. We all have maybe some old behaviors, old patterns, old programming that might get in the way of our highest good. And so I'm really looking forward to talking about this. The funny thing is as much as I do need to work myself on it, I do feel like, 31 years ago when I first started my practice, that I had to be very, very disciplined in countless ways, including spending 4 years almost daily writing a book. And so I do feel like I have a strong connection with it. But I think tonight is good because I do feel I need a little bit of a reboot myself. So just so you know, I'll be talking to myself a lot too, not just to you guys. And then the last thing I'll say is, when you have an opportunity to be in a group like this, it's very intimate. It's really important that you feel like you have a voice too. So just know that we're going to open this up as soon as possible to questions and discussion. And as Kirk said, I want to thank each and every one of you, because Sunday nights at 8 p.m. or whatever time it is in the part of the country you're in, there's a lot of things you have choices to do. And the fact that you've chosen to give this a try, I actually think says a lot about you. It means you're very growth oriented, and maybe this is a topic that deep down is something that is not only valuable to you, but valuable to you as a coach, whether it's as a parent or as a teacher or as a coach. So I'm excited to get going. And again, we're going to try to make sure this is very interactive. If your video is not on, you can totally keep it off, and there's no pressure. But I feel like if you are around and can turn your video on, it just feels a lot more intimate. But again, you're not going to lose points if your video is off. And sometimes people are doing things where they just have to have the video off, and that's fine. I just want to make sure that we'd love to see your face if you're on. But if not, I get it. It's not a problem. So Kirk, with that, I'll hand it back to you. But thanks again for everybody to hanging on and hanging out.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Alan. Again, definitely just, I got a whole bunch of humility that I got to just wear all over my sleeves, that people much higher in the sporting world have reached down and been willing to, help lift me up. And I really appreciate everything that you guys have continued to do. And, just one thing that makes me so excited about all this stuff and just getting a chance to connect with yourself, getting a chance to connect with other individuals is, man, just getting to be genuinely excited about caring about what other people are working towards in their life. It just feels like such a fun power. I'm just dang excited that I get this opportunity, week in, week out now to continue, hopefully just spreading some positive messages for sure. So, with that, I want to get started with just some kind of brief questions and let you get some answers, and then we'll get into some, community interaction and see what you guys might have as far as some thoughts. But Alan, one of the first questions that I want to ask is what does your discipline mean to you?
Well, if you've been following us on Twitter today, the last few days I've been posting some ideas about discipline. I think the first thing that jumps out to me is discipline is usually something that you know, and I'm going to use the word truth probably 150 times today, but it's something you know deep down. You can say your gut, you can say your intuition. It's just something you know that you really want to do, even though it's a path of more resistance. I'll give you an example. You're in an age now, maybe you're in college or high school, and you now know that drinking Coke, or you're drinking too much Coke or soda. And you may say, you know what, instead of having a 60 ouncer a night or a day, I'm going to have, I'll have a Coke every other day, which can be very hard for people to make that adjustment. And by the way, you can substitute anything you want for Coke. It could be alcohol, it could be picking your nails. I mean, there's endless things that you may be doing that you're just like, I really need to shut that down. It's not helping me. And in fact, it's stressing me out, or it's making me feel more unhealthy. I'm just doing it because I'm used to doing it, or it's a creature comfort. And we all have them. I have them, believe me. There was a time I was having almost a pint of ice cream a night before I went to bed. Now I eat relatively well, don't get me wrong. I take good care of my body, but I knew that was too much. So back to discipline. For me, a simple kind of concept of discipline is just to know that there's this higher knowingness, this truth in you, this gut feeling like, man, I just, that's not serving me anymore. And I know I need to do this, but to do that, it's change, and it's not easy, and maybe it's not as fun at first, and it's not going to make me feel as gratified by that Coke. But maybe after a week of doing it, you're like, okay, that was really hard to give up Coke every other day, but I actually feel better. And I'll tell you one other thing that I feel is a really important piece to discipline. When you do apply discipline, even though it might be very hard on the front end, something happens in you that, like a good exhale, something in your tells you like, oh, that is the right thing. Like that actually feels better, right? I know I would have been happier in the moment having that piece of chocolate, but by not having it, I actually feel stronger. And I will say this, as you apply discipline to your life in various areas and you pull it off, you actually succeed. There's this sense of like almost strength that goes the opposite way to the party that sort of is used to maybe giving in. And I don't want to make it sound like giving in, because it's just being human. We have these vices we all have, but you can get on a roll in a disciplined way to where now you're looking to do disciplined things, because now you start realizing that I just feel better when I do this. I feel stronger. I feel I'm living in my truth. There's the word again. So I would just say that's sort of one thing. You'll notice in some of the key words that I think jump out that are sort of the counter to discipline: rationalization. And these are words you might want to write down: rationalization, procrastination, justifying. If you're feeling lazy for the wrong reasons, sometimes it's very healthy to come home from a long day and sit on the couch and watch TV and just kind of go numb. That's not, I don't consider that laziness. I consider that a well-deserved rest. But if it's the kind of laziness that you sort of know, like I really need to clean up my room. I should have cleaned up my room this morning, and I know I should go do it now. And your mind's saying, well, I'll do it after the game. 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 And then 4 hours later, you go to bed and you didn't do it. There's that moment of truth where you're like, I'm just going to hit pause. I'm going to get up. It's going to take me 5 minutes. And when you do it again, there's that feeling of like, okay, that was the path of more resistance, but I felt good doing it. I felt cathartic. And by the way, when you do attack these discipline moments, you'll also notice it helps to get the mind quieter, because if there's something in your truth telling you to do something for the right reason, and you're not doing it and you're delaying it by rationalizing or using one of these counter discipline sort of concepts, then you start to realize, wow, I keep thinking about something, and now what you're doing is you're putting your head in a space where you're thinking, worrying. And if you followed any of the stuff we've done with meditation, one of the real goals of meditation is to empty your mind and quiet your mind so you can go into this flow and this real instinctive, intuitive state. So sort of an overview. There's, I tweeted something earlier about discipline in your players, discipline in your kids. How do you make that fair? So there's a lot of course, discipline is a major, major topic. So at least for starters, I just want to give you at least a little bit of an overview of kind of what discipline means to me. So Kirk, we'll go with that for now.
Awesome. Well, can you take a second and tell the group about how mindfulness training has been a benefit to helping you personally make positive adjustments to your self-discipline?
Well, this is getting deep, but when you have a mental practice, meditation, where daily you're spending time getting quieter, starting to watch your thoughts, maybe notice the kinds of thoughts you're having that maybe aren't serving you, that maybe are more justifying and rationalizing and delaying gratification, that not wanting immediate gratification, right? As you start to watch those thoughts, then you start gaining more insight into how your mind works. And so your mind may be used to going more down a lazier or a procrastinating path, because again, it's comfortable, it's easy, it's the path of least resistance. And the other path, the discipline path, may be the path of more resistance. But at least you get to watch how your mind is operating. And so now you get to go to school on it. The other reason I love meditation and its role at discipline is because the act of meditating to me is a very disciplined act. You have to cut time out of your day. You have to establish a place to go to say, I'm going there for my own mental health or mental well-being or mental or discovery. And then the last thing I'd say about the mental practice is why there's discipline involved, is because it takes discipline to sit there and at first maybe notice your thoughts, and then you get into these conversations with your thoughts. And it takes discipline to say, you know what, I'm not going to get into that conversation with my thoughts anymore. That's just taking me down to a road of distraction and drama and the future and the past. So you can actually start to develop some discipline skills just by the act of mental practice. I'll give you one last example. If right now I said to everybody, hey, we're going to do inhale 1, exhale 2, inhale 3, exhale 4, and we're going to count to 50. And let's just see how well, and this is more, I know, partly a concentration deal too, but let's just see if we can get to 50. Well, part of it's concentration, and part of it's mental discipline to say, hey, I'm staying with this, even though my mind is saying, well, why are you doing this? Or I'm hungry, or I got to call Joe later tonight, right? So you're getting some distractive thoughts, or you're getting the thought that we're looking out for now, which is, oh man, I don't really need to do this. I don't really want to do this. This is work. This is, there's that other side. There's that more rationalization, procrastination, path of least resistance, those kinds of thoughts coming in. And now you get to practice just saying, hey, my thoughts can think whatever they want, man. I'm going to be disciplined and say, I'm not losing track till I get to 50. And it doesn't mean you won't. It just means that you're very determined and committed. And to me, that's another quality or characteristic of discipline. It's starting to learn how to push through the path of least resistance or push through distraction and stay in tune. Again, here's the word, stay in tune with your truth. Stay in tune with that you feel is more of taking you more to your highest good. Like, what really matters? Is it the beer or is it the water? Like, I'm not saying there's not a time and a place where people might want to have a beer. I'm not saying you can't have a beer. I'm just saying it's sort of like you're starting to make those choices of, you know what, it's raining outside today, so I'm not going to go out and throw or whatever. Deep down, something inside of you said, wait a minute, I'm in great throwing shape. I don't want to miss a day of throwing. Like, I don't care if I have to do bands in my room or throw into a mattress in the wall, but I'm going to get it done. Now that's discipline. I'm going to get it done versus the mind is saying it's wet out, it's cold. I don't really want to go set up my mattress in my room. Plus my favorite movie's on right now, or this video game that I want to continue playing. And so again, you can see how these themes keep coming up with discipline. So I kind of went a little off track, but the meditation piece to it is that a lot of great things can happen in meditation, just for starters, to make you aware of how your mind works. So you can start noticing, well, what kind of patterns is my mind spewing out to me, especially out in the world when I'm not in my meditation and ready for it, but now I'm maybe more vulnerable to old patterns and behaviors.
That I love it, Alan. I love it. And man, you triggered me on a couple of different things right there that now I feel like I got to go right after as well too, and just to comment on. But man, how yeah, I'm gonna mess up his name, but it's Dostoevsky says that there are hundreds of young men who would die for the truth, but very few who would spend 5 years to know what the truth is. And we do right now live in ourselves an instant gratification world, but I think a lot of that instant gratification comes from the fact that we have so much instant thoughts that come through all of the time for ourselves. And without the intention of our day a little bit more planned out and structured, it makes it harder for your disciplines that you want to outweigh those thoughts to actually take fold. So you kind of broached on a couple of those different things of, holding that thing and squeezing it. Well, I believe that if we were able to know what we wanted to get out of the day or out of that moment in that segment, when those thoughts come in, it's easier to dismiss it because, I got an action to do right now, and I'm not letting this thought win and take me off course from where I'm going. But let me get onto the next question for you. But this one's a little bit more vulnerable. Do you mind sharing about a time earlier in your journey where you felt from a personal standpoint that, your discipline lacked what it needed for you to accomplish your goals?
I'd say right now I'm going through that period. I'd say that when I started Jaeger Sports, which really wasn't Jaeger Sports, it was just me out there in the world, teaching and professing things I believed in. But I think my push for the first 10 to 15 years was, I feel good. I feel good saying that I don't think I had a choice in a way. I was too determined to, just as you're doing now with these Zoom meetings and your purpose, right? Your mission. I was on a mission to get a few things out there in the world that I thought were really important. One was mental health, mental well-being, and the mental game. Two was arm care and throwing and arm conditioning, and just really focusing on the arm is something that's really important and not something that you do to just play catch and get ready for the day. And three was yoga. I got heavy into yoga in the 90s. And so kind of those three areas, I just, that feeling when someone, it's sort of like someone gives you a great line or saying and you want to share it with people. I was at a point in my life where I felt like I cannot wait to tell the world what I feel lucky enough to have stumbled upon. And of course, I've learned over the years, it's the universe's way of just, I'm just a conduit, right? I'm just sharing. I'm lucky enough that I feel like to have gotten these ideas and what have you. But I felt like I was very disciplined because my truth was overriding everything. My truth to share, my truth to impact people, my truth to get the word out. So I just have to say that my discipline, for the most part, has always been a strength. Although, like any human being, I've had plenty of times throughout my life where I've had my own challenges with discipline. So I would just say that generally, I've had to be very disciplined to do the things that I've done in my life. But there's always been a time throughout my life, for the most part, where I felt like I needed to apply it. But right now in my life, I need to apply it maybe more than ever. So I don't know if I have a particular story or not. I would just say this. The theme tonight, I hope that everybody takes away, is to just do your own inventory. And we're going to talk later on about this idea of a buddy system where you kind of have accountability with one of your best friends or family members. It doesn't matter, to where you just say, okay, this is the question to ask. What is going on in my life that I'm probably doing that I shouldn't maybe be doing, or I'm not doing that I should be doing? Here's another simple one. I exercise twice a week, but I really should be closer to 4 to 5. I'm just making stuff up. I go to the gym once a week. I really should be 3 times a week. I was doing sit-ups for a while and I was just killing it and I felt so good, and I've stopped doing them. So you pick something that's achievable and reasonable nothing that's so out of the world that you're going to just, it's going to be a tough battle to get through and even start. But I say, like, for me, that's sort of the theme tonight, is to figure out what kinds of things are happening in your life that you want to improve on. For me, I can give you a few examples. For one, I'm wanting to get up earlier. I have a lifestyle now, and I've had it pretty much my whole life, where I've had a very flexible schedule. I've never had to really be somewhere on a certain time. So I tend to go to bed late, get up late. I'm still, I still get a lot of stuff done. I still make time for my meditation. I make time for my stretching. I make time for my exercise with tennis. But there's a part of me now that it feels very real, like, hey, this is something that is important, and you've been rationalizing away. So I would say that I don't really, just other than things I need to work on now, nothing really stands out in my life. But look, if I look back, I could definitely pick out probably any week in the last 30 years and say there were some things I could have done and should have done better. So I think for now, it's more important really just to talk about, hey, where are we at? And what kinds of changes do we feel we need to make in our lives that are just, look, at the end of the day, this is ultimately lining you up with your truth. In other words, this is how you really, the funny thing is about discipline is I actually, in my first book, I talk about, it's the sword of your truth. It's the truth, it's the spokesman of your truth. So when you do these discipline acts and you discover the things that maybe you really should be doing or that you're not doing, the irony is as tough as it might seem at first to do, deep down, you always know, like, that's one that I don't like the word should. My mom always got me on should. I don't like shoulds and all that, but it's one of those things where you know in your core, like, that's an adjustment that is, I maybe don't want to do, but I know I need to do for the benefit of my life. And I know ultimately I'm going to feel much better doing it. And that's a little bit of the paradox of discipline. At first, it's hard to apply. It's tough to push through that resistance. But the payoff when you do it is you look back and you go, what was I thinking? Like that, of course, that was something I know I needed to adjust.
That's awesome. And I mean, you talking about those adjustments, and even speaking right now, candidly about your own self, knowing that there are things that you feel like you want to do. We're always going to be feeling those things, but for yourself, even more so, we're all going to pay a price. It's either the price of discipline or the price of regret, and we're going to pay one. And what are we going to choose to do? Because ultimately it is our choice. And going back to one of your first answers that you had said, you feel better after you make those disciplined choices for yourself, especially, when I'm speaking from an athlete's perspective right now, when we're talking about the fact that we work out, we challenge ourselves, we do these different things in these environments that we get a mental sweat. And when you can get that focus driven mentality for yourself, I mean, and complete an event that you chose to be a part of, I feel like it just opens those doors to your abilities of what you can walk through on when you're forced to make other different decisions, and how you handle yourselves in those moments. And the more disciplined choices that you don't make that lead you towards being a little bit unhappy, I bet there is different correlations that makes it be where you snap a little bit faster. You don't want somebody pointing out something you said. It's easier to make that excuse because every time you let that victory win, it thinks it's the status quo again. And everything that we're trying to do is trying to not get ourselves to change because our natural physical state is to find comfort. And we know, and when I talk about these different disciplines and I talk about these different things, we also have to also know that we're our own individuals and we can only measure to our own different things. I, for myself, unfortunately and fortunately, have had a burning desire to do the different things placed on my heart, which means I have a bigger weight of discipline that is placed on my shoulders to get out what I want to get out into the world. But you know what? Those same disciplines can be applied to the very simple things that people want to do. And Alan, I don't want to take anything away from yourself real fast, but I wanted to comment towards Jim real fast, and just man, I want to thank you so much for having your kids on. And I'm assuming they're your kids, but having young ones on, because guys, if I ever learned something like this at your age, I can't imagine where I would be now. And it's just about planting the seeds to start the process for yourself. It's not about being perfect. That's not the goal for what you guys are going after. But what you guys should be going after is knowing that, hey, this is a separator. This is a skill to learn. And all of these different things that we're starting to possess and starting to grow into when we start about talking about character and accountability and discipline and resilience, those are skills, and skills can be learned, and skills can also be taught. So can you imagine for yourself going through your day as young men feeling like you're doing the right things, and how much better you're going to feel compounding that stuff as you start to find out in life what are the things that you care about that you want to now apply your disciplines to. So really, Jim, thank you so much for having your family on.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for doing this, because I think I think it is really important for them to hear this part of whatever process they want to go through, whatever goals they want to achieve. What we always talk about is that you can have the best laid plan. The plan that's unexecuted doesn't really matter. But even if you just have a plan, you stick to it, you're disciplined, whatever it is, whether it be sports or life, school, business, anything, you're going to be successful. So yeah, I appreciate you guys having this, and for acknowledging the fact that they're here and, potentially learning that skill.
Absolutely. And, I've probably been saying this a little too dang much lately, but just straight to you two young men, we're not all going to get drafted by the Yankees, but we all will get drafted in life. And so what are you going to be doing through the process of growing up to raise your stock as a young man? And then as a human being, building your networks and doing your different things that are going to allow you to build those relationships that allow those different doors to open. Because if we want the major leagues, we want the highest level of goals that we set, well, then it's still going to have to be matched with a work ethic that gets up there. And we don't always all have the same God-given abilities that are going to allow the major leagues to happen. But you know what? We all have the abilities to build ourselves through different skills. And if this falls, you're still going to land right in the right place of where, the good Lord's supposed to be having you for yourself. And at the end of the day, again, we're trying to learn these skills to apply them to actual life, because, hey, I think sports are great, but from a personal opinion, when I had those aspirations of who I wanted to be, they were all back doors into how I can actually be an effective human being and a contributor to society. It was just the way in more than it was the way out. That's always what it was for myself, as far as thinking that I can get to those mountaintops, was just who else can I help once I get here. Alan, one of the last questions that I had you kind of answered perfectly in your last answer. So, man, I really do think that we're in a great spot right here to open things up to the floor after you maybe have one other thing or so to add to the conversation and try to get this group interacting and talking.
Yeah, I will. And Jim, it was good to hear your feedback and also have your kids on. It is, when you get to kids at a young age, man, I joke with everybody about if they could start doing some kind of meditation, visualization, breathing exercise in elementary school, even if they don't even know why they're doing it, I just think our world would be light years ahead of where we are now. So I'm really glad to see the kids on there. I have one last thing to say so we can get to some interaction, and really all questions, by the way, are cool. Like, I don't care if it's about, your self-discipline or dealing with your players, or any questions or challenges so far, that'd be great. Something when Kirk was talking also struck me as very interesting. One is, when you do one thing that's a discipline act that you've been kind of putting off for a while, it is fascinating what happens. What happens is you notice that you're changing something that you've done for a long time. So again, not exercising at all, and now you're like, you know what, I need to at least get in the gym 2 or 3 times. And that first week you do it, what you start to notice is that you have this pattern that you've been sort of falling into for years and not going to the gym. And then you break the pattern, even though it's tough. And what that does is it opens you. And you start realizing that there's this other world when I break this pattern. And to me, this is a huge deal, because you can start to notice that in any aspect of your life. If you're like me, I'm never really late, but I'm pretty good at being 1 to 3 minutes late kind of thing. And that's going to be my thing this week, Kirk. I'm not exaggerating. I want to be Lombardi time. I really do. I want to be somewhere 10 minutes early. No joke. Even 5. I'll take 5 for now, right? Remember, when you pick your discipline assignments, make them doable. So what happens is when you take yourself out of your comfort zone of things that are just easy, and again, you're used to doing it, you have these behavioral programs, right? And so if you have it here, you may have it there, you may have it over there. When you break one, what this does is it gives you a chance to experience this insight, as if you've now opened the door to this awareness that you're changing your patterns, you're changing a program, you're expanding your ability to get more out of life, so to speak. So I want to make that point. And if you don't believe me, change something tonight or tomorrow. I don't care if it's one thing, like what time you go to bed or what time you get up, or something that you know though you really want to do and need to do and you need to change. And you'll see it might feel a little uncomfortable, but you realize that you've got out of this lane. Like maybe you're in these lanes, and maybe for the most part you're doing life well, but there's some areas that are very restrictive and limiting to you. And you open up one of those areas, and I'm just telling you, you have a chance to experience this opening in other areas. So the point is, you start to realize, wow, there's a lot more going on in life by applying a little bit of discipline here and there that maybe you just don't realize, because you're just you're on autopilot. And I'm not saying autopilot's not working for you, but if you're honest with yourself, you may take some time and ponder this, and may say, I'm doing like a 90% job. I'm doing a great job at life, but there's a few things here that I'm ready. It's time. Maybe this Zoom call was the deal. I'm ready to and then you do it. And I feel like you might be surprised at how that opens the door to not only feeling better about changing that habit, but then you realize, wow, I can apply this over there too, and over there too. And I can actually understand people that are dealing with discipline issues. I can now identify better with them and help them through it. So I would say that's just sort of one thing I would throw out there. I will throw out one other thing, and then we'll get going. I remember I'm having flashbacks from my book. This is 30 years ago now. I think I wrote at one point in the chapter, you have to also be careful to discipline. And at first that sounds kind of funny, but if you get to a point where you're starting to make these changes and feeling better, and now you're on a roll, there also comes a point where it's like, okay, I took 100 hacks today, and that was really good. I took 50 extra, and you're like, wow, that was above and beyond. And then you're like, well, I'm doing well with this discipline thing. Let me do another 50. And there comes a point you have to be. It's a real paradox, but you also have to be mindful of like, okay, now is this overkill? Because as we all know in life, there's something called the law of diminishing returns, right? Mm-hmm. So then you have to start realizing, okay, wait a minute. I went to bed at 9 p.m. I got up at 5:45. I did my gym. I did my this. I did my that. And so you got 20 things lined up, and a lot of them will make you feel better per se. But then at some point you might, like, let's say, burn out, or it's too much. So I would say just be aware of overkilling it, which I don't know if it's really possible, but it could be a little bit. And the other thing I want to mention as part of, I hope, a question that may come up is, because I feel really good about this topic, which is how you bring discipline to your kids or your players so that it's fair and reasonable and in a win-win. I think the word discipline gets thrown around as a coach, and it can really be misconstrued. Like, you're disciplining them by having them run 20 pulls. and I'm not saying there's not a time and a place to do consequential stuff. I don't know about 20 pulls, but I think that if you guys are interested, that would be another thing to broach, is sort of like this idea of bringing discipline to your players or your kids in a way to where they can't say that was unfair. Because if you discipline kids, and this is, I think, I'm glad I'm bringing this up, because I think this is a big deal. If you bring discipline to kids the wrong way, as we all know, right, it can totally backfire. And so I do feel like there is a way, maybe I'll talk a little bit about it, because in case, just to be safe, but I feel like if you don't bring it up the right way, and I do believe there is a right way, there might be many right ways, but the way that's worked for me, and maybe this is, I'll leave it on this note, and then we will do our Q&A. What I do and what I did, I was a junior college coach for like 3 to 4 years. The fourth year was sort of halftime, but I was there, let's say 4 years. And then I had private camps and clinics for a long time with my own players, not just on the road, but I mean, at home, we had our own private groups. And so I do feel like I've had a good opportunity to apply, discipline from a coaching point of view. And what I found really worked well, and it was almost like impossible for the kids to not to refute. I always explain to them up front the rules. Okay, now some of this for you guys might be discipline 101, and you might already do this, and that's great, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'll give you an example. Players late to practice. Now, by the way, when I was in high school, I was at a very reputable high school program with a reputable coach. If you were late, you might be off the team. First time. I mean, that was it. Can you imagine that? So there's a form of discipline you can say there. Nowadays, I know it's a lot different, but let's say someone's, late and you're kind of nice to them, like, hey, just no problem. Just, it wasn't really justifiable. They were late, not because of anything that really happened. Just don't do it again, right? Just being a good guy. Then they're late the next day. So number one is how you talk to people, right? So for me, it's always, in music, there's a minor and a major chord. Minor is down, major is up. So to me, it's a major chord. It's an uplifting. Not you're pissed off that they've been late 2 days in a row and you're coming in with some anger. You're just trying to get to a higher good with this person. You're trying to help them out. They may have a serious problem. So outside of being late. So you're doing more of what's called in law discovery, right? You're investigating. So you first have a healthy kind of conversation about, hey, what's going on, this and that, and they tell you, and assuming it's nothing too extreme, they're just being a little lazy, they're rationalizing, they're procrastinating, whatever it is. And you say, look, here's what I want to do. I'm going to do this with you so that you agree this is fair. There's the word fair. And reasonable. You say, look, I respect the fact, you're doing your best, but look, we have team rules. Okay? And this is symbolic of not only being on time, this is symbolic of us being in a position to win a championship or be as good as we can be. So this is a team thing, of course. So you come at them with good energy, upbeat, major chord, conversational, first find out what's going on. So they know you care. Right? So you're now empowering them versus I'm pissed off and I'm going to discipline you. Sorry, Jim, about the pissed off. You guys, you might have heard that term before, the kids. We'll try to. What was that?
I said it's okay.
We'll try to clean it up a little bit now.
You're fine. They've heard worse in the 7th grade locker room.
I'm sure they have. I'm almost done. So now you're there's a good vibe going on, right? Now they respect you, they appreciate you, they're more willing to listen. And then you're like, look, this is very important to me. We have rules about being on time, blah, 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 blah. So what I want to do, and I want to share this with you to make sure you're okay with it, so you hear me clearly, and we've put everything out there, so there's no surprises. But if you're late again, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask you to sit in the dugout for all of practice that day. I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to say a word to you, actually, other than just, hey, Jim, hope you had a good day today. Today, I'm just going to have you sit in the dugout. And then maybe if you do it again, then I might send you home. And then maybe the third time I might have to let you go from the team. Okay. Now, how you figure that second part out is up to you. But see what I've done? I've created an environment where now we're collaborating. I've let the player know I care about them, even though deep down I might still be a little angry from the fact that they've been late 2 days in a row or the first day. I've now put out a very simple agreement that is explained up front, so they can't be surprised later by. I've even said to them, does this seem reasonable? There's the word reasonable again. Does this seem reasonable to you? And if they're, if they're reasonable, they're gonna say, of course, I understand, like it's fair. You're just telling me if I'm late, then I just have to sit in the dugout. You're not yelling at me. You're not kicking me off the team. To me now, if they show up late again, you don't have to get mad now. You don't do anything. They've made a choice. The ground was already laid. You ask them very politely, whether it's your star player or the last player on the team, it's irrelevant. You just ask them politely to sit on the bench. They cannot get mad at you. In that moment, for 1 second, they may actually get kind of mad. Like, well, wait, but the bus, or you can say, no, look, we had this discussion. So I feel like that interpersonal discussion on discipline is a really, really big deal. And I think it can turn such a positive growth opportunity into such a negative one like this, just because of, the way it's set up. So just wanted to make sure I put that out there as sort of another concept rather than this is just all about self-discipline and us. I want this discussion because most people here are either coaches, obviously parents. And I just think that's a really good area to go into. And then if there's something that we didn't really hit on yet, because it's such a big topic that's really burning in your mind, this is the opportunity. So you can ask a question about something we haven't talked about. You can follow up. You can even share if you've had success with something you've done that's really worked well. We're all students on this call, obviously. So I think, Kirk, at this point, let's get you guys involved, and you can literally just unmute. They can just unmute themselves,
Exactly.
and fire away.
Please, and thank you. Give any contribution that you guys want. Please feel free to add.
Yeah, no, real quick. And Alan, I appreciate it. I mean, saying a bunch of incredible stuff.
Thank you.
I think for me as a coach and as a younger coach, I try and stay away from the extra sprints or extra physical things, because I don't want them to hate, doing those things. I want them to understand that that's just part of being a college baseball player. So for me, I try to relate it to myself, but without letting them know that. But if you're disciplined and you stay true to what you're trying to accomplish, and you fail, you can handle that a little bit more than when you lack discipline and then you fail. Then you're going to look back with the regret. What could I have done? What should I have done? All that sort of stuff. So I just try to reiterate kind of often, just as a reminder, like, hey, if you're disciplined, if you're working hard, if you're preparing the way you should be, and you fail, which, in a game of failure, and you fail, you're going to be able to handle that. And especially the two young guys that we've got joining us tonight, it's the same thing. As you guys grow and develop from high school and beyond, if you don't make it to that D1 school that you aspire to be at, but you're at a different school, you're going to look back and say, hey, I was disciplined enough to get here. You know what I mean? And that's great. But it's like when you graduate high school and you don't get to an opportunity to play at the next level, you're going to look back and say, well, if I would have done this a little bit more, if I would have done that a little bit more, I would have an opportunity somewhere. Just because you're disciplined doesn't mean it's going to work out, but you're going to be able to handle it a little bit more than if you're not disciplined.
Well, and also if you're disciplined, Chance, thank you. That's really good feedback and input. But I would say this too, when you do apply the discipline and you feel like you really did it to the best of your ability, again, here's the word truth again. You feel in your inner truth like, hey, I did it right. Now, maybe I got a Division III scholarship versus a Division I, or I only played in the junior college. But you can walk away and feel really good about yourself because you know in your truth, your gut, your heart, right? You know that you did your job. And to me, that's fulfilling. And so, yes, I agree with what you're saying, Chance. And I feel like it's a huge deal. The more you can really evaluate yourself consistently and say, I'm doing all the right things, then you have to be able to say, you know what, this was my path, and see it as a positive. You know, the analogy I love is, you know, I remember hitters lining out and coming back to the dugout. I'm sure I did it at some point, right? And they're upset. Well, for those of you that have followed us at all on Twitter with our process approach and how big of a deal that is, if you hit a line drive and walk off the field and don't feel really, really good, you're allowed to have 2 seconds of disappointment. I get it. I'd be disappointed too if I hit a ball on the screws and lined out. But within 2 to 3 seconds, I'm not exaggerating, there has to be another immediate reaction to, man, I feel really, really good about that. Like, that was a great positive at bat. And anything less than that, to me, it's just a lack of perspective. And that's why, if you can understand that you did the right things discipline-wise, you honestly, without overkilling it, you really did the things you know you needed to do. And whether you end up in the big leagues or junior college or whatever level, if you don't make it past high school, you're just like, you know what, this is I'm fulfilled. I'm gratified. That's the word, gratified. I'm gratified because I did my process right, which is the discipline part. I did my discipline right. I hit the ball I got the right pitch. I was nice and relaxed. I hit the ball on the screws. What happens after that, I can't control for the most part.
I'm not trying to throw you on the spot or anything like that, but Mikey, did you have anything before you possibly had to head off onto work? Let me unmute you. Nope, you're gonna have to unmute yourself.
I think I just got it. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you froze up a little
Can you
bit,
hear me?
Mike, but I think we're good now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really don't have anything to elaborate on. I took notes off of everything you said on my iPhone in the notes category, and I really appreciate you showing up the past 2 weeks. I am about to head to work, but this is really healthy for me. Thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely. And one of the reasons why I wanted to point that out, and not trying to throw you into any kind of bus, but we all get to make easy decisions on what we can or cannot do and what we choose to prioritize. But did that now prioritization get placed at the forefront because you didn't put it at the forefront earlier in the day, or different things of that nature? But Mikey still had something to do up until the minute of where we're supposed to, be coming in, but he still chose to be here. Yet there's multiple people through this process that, dang, I'm 5 minutes late, I'm not going to sign in. I'm 20 minutes late, I'm not going to sign in. At certain points, you have to make decisions that benefit yourself, even if it means that you only get portions of it. You can't say, I can't work out today because I can't work out for the whole 2 hours that I want to work out. Well, then how about just 20 minutes today? How about some kind of movement? How come some kind of growth? It's the same mentality that I'm trying to talk to many of my guys about in study hall, where, coach, I don't have any homework to do. BS. You have something you can do for 2 hours to get better as a human being right now. There's something that you care about that you can get better at. The choice is yours. You don't need to just sit here and talk about nothing and waste your life. There's plenty of other time that you're going to do that on your own devices. Make this time intentional. So, Mikey, I really appreciate you being on, and I hope you go have a great day at work, man, for sure. Who else?
Yes.
Thank you, Mikey. Great to have you on, Mike.
Yes,
Absolutely.
sir.
Mike has been here for the past 2 weeks as well, too. So I appreciate you showing up for the past 2 weeks, Mikey. Thank you, man.
That's
Jim, I'd
awesome.
love.
Hey, Alan,
Yes.
what is it about the brain physiologically where we know what we should be doing? When we do that activity, it makes us feel good, yet we still sometimes choose the path of least resistance. Is there something that is physical that we need to overcome in the brain, to get us going in the right direction? Again, I don't care what it is, whether it be in my job as a financial advisor or the boys doing something at school, with sports, whatever. We all find excuses. So what is it that we know we should be doing, yet we still find the path of least resistance?
Yeah, it's funny because someone just posted dopamine, which is very funny and actually very, very true. I'm not an expert on the neurology of the brain. I would say this, I don't know if it's the id, the immediate gratification centers, maybe somebody on this call will have some input too, but I always look at it this way, Jim, and it's really a great question. In a weird kind of way, it's like, well, if everything was that easy, everybody would do it. Kind of, it's sort of like sometimes I go there. I don't know the real answer except to say this. Things that allow us to grow start with change, right? And change for human beings can be very difficult because why? Well, from a young age, we develop neuroplasticity, right? We develop behavioral patterns and programming, right? So it's sort of like, think of it like this. Your brain gets wired, right? Like a computer, it gets wired. So now the computer, if you hit A, it's going to print A on the page. So you get sort of in a lane. So it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, or it's just really, it's more behavioral conditioning. Okay, so there's messages. So your brain is messaging us all the time, right? We're getting messages. Well, if the message always says that, when I go to pick up a bottle, I pick it up with my right hand. That's just what's that's just classical conditioning.
Mhm.
So I feel like, first of all, we fall into this role of just behavioral patterns. Why is it that the immediate gratification ones come so much easier in a way, and why is it that this discipline or this challenging it, the path of more resistance, like what's really going on there? I don't really know. I'm sure there's centers of the brain. There's a physiology in the brain that might explain it better, but I just feel like a lot of it comes down to we can do things quickly and get gratified quickly, which is where the dopamine comment is extremely accurate, right? That's how a lot of the Facebook and a lot of these big commercial advertisements, right? That's how a lot of it works, is it gets you quick fix. So they know that. So they know the human mind, let's just say, and the human behavior work that way. So for that reason, Jim, I'd almost just say, if you can sort of just make that leap into your daily life, that, oh, my mind is, just likes that dopamine, it likes the quick fix. Look, if I have a piece of chocolate right now, that's going to really satisfy me, right? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but if it's 11 at night and caffeine is going to keep me up, my deeper discipline, my deeper truth is saying, dude, just don't go there. Go have an apple, and have some chocolate at 6 p.m. tomorrow, okay? But as you know, the theme of tonight is really, that is the path of more resistance, and it's change. So Jim, I'd just say part of the answer from my background is that change for human beings can be even simple things can be difficult, because change means you're going to probably be taking the path of more resistance, right? We all know this term, creature comfort. Well, there's a reason why it's such a common term in our vernacular, creature comfort. It's because we all have them. right? We all have creature comforts. There might have been 100 people that really wanted to be on tonight and deep down knew they should have been on this call tonight, but a creature comfort kicked in. And I'm not judging them as right or wrong even, right? It's the human condition until that human condition, we say, changes. But it could have been a football game. It could have been a movie. It could have been they got a little bit deeper in the video game they didn't realize they were in. There's a million reasons why the mind could have justified, because it's the path. It might have been the path of more resistance for people to do this, even though deep down they need to do it. So Jim, I know I kind of gave you a bit of a smorgasbord, but it might be interesting is Google, just maybe Google why humans, lean toward immediate gratification versus not. But I just think part of it is the sort of stuff that we all know. It's just, there's dopamine, there's a payoff. And it just seems maybe it's not as sexy up front to do those tough things, even though it's very sexy. It's the ultimate sexy when you do it. And I almost think, and I'll give you one other analogy that I love, even though it's not exactly what you asked, but I learned this a long time ago, this visual that has really helped me. When you first try to do something new, right? And discipline is a new thing for a lot of people. It's sort of like pushing a train, right? On a track. It takes a lot of might to get the train going, right? And then you push, and maybe after 10 or 15 minutes, the wheels barely start to move. And you just keep pushing, and it's hard, and there's resistance. And then the wheels, with the momentum, the wheels start to pick up a little more. And then before you know it, maybe a few days later, maybe a couple months later, those wheels are moving and it's rolling. And all of a sudden, now you have a new behavioral program and a new behavioral pattern that's actually satisfying your truth. It actually is making you feel good. And all of a sudden, these other programs come up about immediate gratification. You're starting to go, that doesn't even interest me anymore. Like, not that you can't have a piece of chocolate, but you start noticing, like, wow. So you change the program to where now the path of more resistance is the path of I would just say the right path. But that's another good thing to sort of keep in mind about not only why it's hard to get discipline in life, but to have the faith that knowing that it's going to get better. But it's a great question, and it's one of those things that I'm sure there's more studies out there and research on the actual brain center. There's probably a physiological point where they say, and maybe it's the id, right? I mean, maybe it's just as simple as it's that center that we have that's just seeking immediate gratification. I'm sure we can maybe trace it back to thousands of years ago, maybe cave people, like why they did certain things, right?
I think it's awesome that we get to be kind of the group of the aware. And I think it starts with a lot of awareness yourself, because, and in some respects, and it's a double-edged sword of awareness, because once you are aware, you are very aware of when you are punishing yourself. And that's, it can be painful at sometimes. And we retreat to comforts plenty of times, and many reasons why. And I mean, I don't mean to speak of it from, too much experience, but your bad habits can sometimes creep back even harder the second time around after you've broken them, when you let it get a taste again. And if you don't then protect the habits then that you've earned and go ahead and develop. That's why we can work out, change our body, and then again, boom, there's 2 years I don't go to the gym again, but yet I felt like in that process of changing my body, I'd never not work out again, but yet other things start coming to the forefront and what you put to be important. But I think a lot of it starts with that awareness, and also your vocabulary. I think in the way that you self-talk is the way that you're going to really start to reprogram a lot of the problems that were already built into, what you've self-talked yourself into. And it reminds me of one of my favorite Zig Ziglar quotes, which is, failure is an event, it's not a person. And many times we then do get attached to the results of our decisions. And if that result was a result that hurt, how much easier is it going to be to not even make that decision to put yourself into that pain. That's just my opinion on that one. But who else has got something else to try to share and help with the conversation? And I know we're over time at this point, but anybody is welcome to stay. Not volunteering Alan's time or anything, but I'm more than happy to chat with you guys, even if it's setting up a conversation for a later date. But enjoying the conversation and would love to hear what you guys continue to have to say.
And I just want to add one thing. Sorry, Mr. Boozer, Dr. Boozer, 1 sec, just don't move. You're up next. I thought of one other thing I have to throw in there, Jim. You ready? And it's not the physiological answer, but I will say this. It does make a lot of sense to me. If we're in a program, at 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, right? We stay in that program. But something is trying to really get us to grow. Well, then to me, it makes sense that it's the path of more resistance. Because to me, it's sort of like saying, if you really want to grow, then it's an investment, right? So it's actually, in a weird kind of way, it's sort of like, yes, it's easy to keep falling into the path of least resistance, but it's there to say that, no, this is really growth. And so it's sort of like saying, it's showing you that real growth takes work. That's sort of the symbolism to me of why there's more resistance to it, because it gets your antenna up that, whoa, I just had to challenge something and I had to change, and that was hard. But man, that was a huge payoff. That interrupted my normal rhythm of things that maybe I'm just immediately gratified, and I can kind of go through life sort of blindly and not really have to grow that much. And that's fine. I'm not saying that you can't have a great life that way, but I feel like that's the other reason why there is a path of more resistance. It's like a test. It's just sort of saying, hey, do you really want to grow? Do you really want to change? Because it's going to be work and it's going to feel hard maybe up front, but man, you're going to get the payoff. And then you're going to realize, oh, maybe it's almost like saying, wow, it's like the fruit. It's sort of like what you sow, you reap kind of thing. It's like, whoa, I was challenged and it was hard, but man, there was a huge payoff. And that's a contrast maybe to the life that people may be living where they keep getting immediately gratified. So it was just another, it's still not the biological answer I know you were looking for. I'm sure there is an answer in there, but Mr. Boozer, I'm sorry, the floor is yours.
You're fine, Alan. I appreciate you being on here and giving me the opportunity, and you as well, Kirk, too, to be here. I pay attention to you, Alan, and Mr. Trotsky quite a bit. And, I think it has a lot to do with the mental mind state. And Kirk said it, we listen to ourselves, and the human body for most, I think, is naturally lazy, right? And it leads to the path of, least resistance. And instead of listening to ourselves, we need to talk to ourselves more. And I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of it every day. My wife, hey, take out the garbage. Give me 5 minutes. And that 5 minutes turns into 10, that 10 minutes turns into 15, then 20. Then the next thing you know, it's time to go to bed. I haven't taken out the garbage yet, and it finally gets done. But if you can challenge yourself and say, okay, take out the garbage now. Or, as kids, hey, how many times do your parents say get off video games, and you say, hey, let me finish this game, right? Or give me 10 more minutes, or give me 15 more minutes. Well, if you challenge yourself to, okay, I'm going to get off this game now, make yourself feel good, you listen, and then maybe next week you do it twice, the week after that you do it 3 times, and then you start in a routine, your body starts to become aware that you're changing yourself, you're changing your mental thoughts, you get out of the graveyard, you become present, and you start moving in the right direction. But it's tough training the brain. I live with a lot of regret from my childhood, and I wish I would have done things differently. But we live in a day and age where we can talk to people that know things like you guys do, and hopefully learn from it and pass it on to everyone else that we come in contact with. So
I appreciate that. There's some awesome words, and I appreciate you having a way better beard than I'll ever have as well too, for sure. But no, there's some quality stuff, and I mean, I'm sorry to be rooting around as you're talking, but you hit on something so strong. The way we talk to ourselves, and I've got myself, and they've upgraded plenty of these by these days, but it's a positive self-talk card, and there's these different things of, dude, you stand in front of the mirror and you affirm these different qualities of who you are. You're gonna be, when you're going through these things, you're gonna hit on the one that oh, that is not me, but that's who I know I want to be, and start working towards. So like I've got one. I wish I could show it to you, and I thought I had it right here for myself, but and even that, I've started to and I'm not even doing as much as I want, but I've started to really feel that difference of the way I even talk to myself in the mirror, of just feeling that overabundance of confidence of just kind of going through this different motion, and it's got different ones for your associate, working with in the work field, work, just your own personal relationships, and then just even the way that you treat yourself as well too. But I think self-affirmation and self-talk is a big one. The way that we feed our mind is huge for sure.
I'd
Chris,
just like to add that both boys have been to Trotsky Mongero's camps, and for the coaches on the call, I'm going to start this year as the varsity pitching coach of our high school, and I'm trying to bring a lot of TTB, train the brain, and all the acronyms and everything else that Trotsky has to our kids, and it just I can't say enough about what they do and the way Nate has created that system of self-talk. So I appreciate you saying that, because I think it's so real, and it's the kind of thing that I wish I had when I was playing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Chris, what you got, man?
Chris.
His name says Jay Boozer, right? Who just talked? You mentioned something about get out of the graveyard. Can you expand on that? Yeah, I missed the second part you said.
Yeah, so it goes back to Nate and Alan and their conversations that they have, but Nate refers to a lot of us living in the graveyard, and we're given a born date and we're given an end date, right? And that end date is when our sports career ends, so to speak. And he refers to a lot of the sports careers ending too early for a lot of folks, because they leave the game too early, and most of the people that he interviews leave the game too early because they mentally they couldn't control their thoughts, which they feel take them out of the game earlier than what they could have been taken out of the game. Does that make sense? So for like me, I live in a graveyard. I have regret, because if I would have known some of the things now, I feel like I could have taken things further with some of my athletics. So.
Thank you.
I don't ever tell people like how they should feel, but I would say this about the word regret, because maybe this will help. Everything that's happening on your path is exactly as it's supposed to happen, right? Because it did happen.
Right.
And I would say that everything in life has been a teacher. And the fact that where you're at now is you're quote unquote aware, to me, is massive. So you may see it sort of like what you could have done, or if you would have had this earlier. I look at it a completely different way. Like, man, you got this. So now if you have kids, or you're out coaching or teaching, like, how powerful is that? Like, now you can be a conduit to this information. So I hope you, I'm a optimist if you haven't figured that out tonight, but I just feel like, I hope you look at, you don't necessarily look back anymore with regret as much as you're just like, oh no.
Right.
Looking forward with hope. Looking forward with hope. And I mean, John Maxwell says if there's hope in the future, there's power in the present. And so, we really got to make sure that self-talk also guides us towards those different goals, but then those goals have to be met with broken down into daily actions that work towards getting us towards those different things that we're going towards. I really wanted to ask, Greg, Gordy, Matt, anything that you guys got that you would like to add or anything like that? And I'm sure then I put that on you. You're all three going to try to talk at the same time.
Yeah, you know what I keep hearing in this conversation and a few other ones that I've listened to is that self-awareness piece, that importance of really listening to yourself, because we all have defaults that we run. And you mentioned we get on autopilot, and sometimes that autopilot is good, but there's times when that autopilot isn't. And if we don't take that time to really just listen to ourselves and dive into it, and utilize that self-awareness, a lot of times our defaults are disciplines that we don't want to or we shouldn't be involved in, and they're bringing us down the wrong road. So that's what I'm taking away from this today. And one of the big things that I'm working with our players right now is just listening to yourselves and going into some self-talk. And we can really get into positive self-talk, but first we've got to listen to ourselves and figure out what is it that's going on inside our minds. So great conversations. I appreciate it. Thanks, you guys.
I appreciate you, Greg. I mean, just being a proponent for yourself, and then all of us being able to take ourselves into being able to help the others around us, because how really can we make any impact on anybody else if we can't make a positive impact in our own life, because they are looking to us as different pillars in some ways, because the same way that we have no idea where they're coming from when they leave practice or what's going on in their lives, they don't know what's going on in ours. And it's kind of up to us to be able to show them the proper ways to handle the challenges that come through the process, to let them know that the same wind blows on us all. And it's just a matter of they have a little bit less experience at this time of how to handle those changing winds. Matt, I saw that you had turned yours on. I'd love for you to go ahead and contribute anything you got.
Yeah, first I appreciate it. I know this is kind of like spur of the moment for me, and it's definitely been a benefit this last hour. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Kind of one thing I wanted to speak about was, I don't even know if it's possible, but how would you what are some tools that maybe you could track progress towards discipline? If I was speaking to a group of players, talking about discipline and, hey, not being regretful and making sure that, you want to work towards where you're trying to go and, instilling change, but how would you be able to implement change, for that, play?
Documentation is going to be the way that that I think a lot of that is going to go. It's going to be intentional planning. That's my personal opinion on it. And even when you make your schedule for what it is, it doesn't mean that you're have to be a slave to your schedule. It doesn't own your day, but it helps you with an opportunity to be able to know what different things that do need to be accomplished for yourself. And so I think there definitely is some measurability for yourself if you're able to take back and go through and say, whatever happened this week, on this day, I got done what I said I wanted to get done. And if that doesn't make you feel better about how you're intentionally moving forward, then I think that probably isn't going to be the case. Now, if that whole thing is filled with a bunch of stuff where you're trying to get out of some major ruts, maybe those first couple of weeks might be a little bit rough until you can get to some clearing for yourself and making up for some lost time. But that was my actionable request of the group this week. Along with one that I know Alan's going to be having with us, talking a little bit about a buddy system that we should probably talk about a little bit right here real fast before we get too deep into stuff. But just take this week and plan it. Try the best you can the night before to set a little bit of a schedule. I can really go through too much and be able to show, but this particular book is a Zig Ziglar, it's called a performance planner. It's a personal management and goals achievement system. So it just breaks it down into the things that you thought you're going to do. And then it breaks it down into, okay, what time did you actually do? What did your day actually turn into? You plan it up here, and then the timeline of filling it in. And then at the bottom of that, even as well too, it's got these different boxes of You're checking off the things that you did that were important to your life. It's got physical, mental, spiritual, recreational, family, career, social, financial, so that you're keeping documented track of what you're growing into for yourself. And this thing has been awesome for me. And I can tell you, as awesome as I'm holding a good book, I waste it all the time. This is a habit that I'm working on developing for myself right here as well too. And I know as I get better at doing these things, it's going to help me keep myself more accountable to different actions. And then I think that flows right into Alan, where I'd love for you to talk briefly about maybe our little accountability system, our buddy system that we're hoping to try to accomplish this week.
Yeah, great. Kirk, I love the idea of the writing down. And Matt, I would add this part. The writing down, all that information is really, really helpful. It can really change your life. But sometimes not sometimes, I think you first have to find what is it that they want to change. So that book, for instance, right away up front, I know right away I'm going to at least have structure. I'm going to know, like, it's going to make me think about physically, what do I need to do? Mentally, what do I need to do? Spiritually. So you're already off and running with this book. But I have found that it's really important to ask the individual, just like a gut check. What do you feel like you need to work on that you're currently doing that maybe you shouldn't be doing, or that you're not doing and you should be doing? So I actually like to source what is going on. So there's two actionable things happening. I think on the front end, you have to first get in their head, you have to first get them to express, like, where are they at in life? What are they not doing that they know they should be doing, even if it's just 50 more swings a day or whatever. And then what are they not doing that they need to be doing, or what are they doing that they need to be not doing? So I think, Matt, the first place you want to go to is to really tap into them. Now, they may need some help. They may say, well, what does that mean? Like, what am I doing? You can give them an example, like, are you getting up as early as you want to? Are you going to bed as early as you want to? Are you having too much candy? Are you drinking too much soda? Are there any things you're doing in your life that maybe you could cut out that is wrong for you, that really would make you feel better, even if you don't really want to give them up, right? So you give them some ideas. You give them your own. Use yourself as an example, right? Like, hey, like I'll be honest, like I did early on in the Zoom call, right? I said, hey, I got things I need to work on, right? So I'm aware. So I think Kirk's like that writing this stuff down and having direction and structure, I think is profound. Like, that is a huge deal. But I would just say this: first, maybe get with the player and help them identify what's going on, because all of Kirk's stuff in that book is still going to hit a bunch of areas that maybe they're not even thinking about and you're not thinking about. And it's going to establish, as Kirk has said, which I need that book, Kirk. It's going to establish sort of a game plan the night before for the next day. There's going to be tons of accountability in there. So you need that, because as much as you have this great conversation and dialogue, maybe some of it gets lost in the shuffle. Although, of course, I would tell them, you'd want to write down the things that they need to work on or the things they need to stop working on, and make notes. And then also you have to find out, okay, is it 3 days a week in the gym or 5? Like, what's in your heart? What's in your gut? Like, what's right there? Because we don't know that answer yet.
You're right.
Maybe they're not going to the gym. Sorry. Maybe
No,
they're
I was
not
just
going. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I was just agreeing with you. Sorry, I forgot that I was on.
Oh, no, that's okay. No, it's all good. So I'm like, Kirk, go, man, that's you. So maybe like maybe they're not going to the gym at all. And you have to be realistic and say, let's just go twice this week. Somebody else made that good point earlier about doing this incrementally, right? But my point is it's twofold. That book is sort of like, that's like the big sack of potatoes. Like, that's got like a ton of stuff in there, but I feel like you have to first get to the person.
You're absolutely right, though, Alan, for sure, because it's hard to start there. But you had hit exactly on it where I wanted to tell Matt. Then you have to segment it a little bit more for yourself. It's about that identification of knowing what can I accomplish every day that is a great building block that will undoubtedly lead me towards better decisions towards different things. And from a personal standpoint, mine right now is 3 things. I need to listen at a minimum to 20 minutes of personal development audio. I need to work out in some fashion for a minimum of at least 20 minutes. And I need to read at least 20 pages of a good book, nonfiction for myself, personal development, growth-based book. Now, that sounds like an hour, but you know what? While I'm working out, I'm listening to my personal development. I'm feeding my mind with some healthy stuff. And then I'm doing my reading. And I know 100% as a human being, how would I not grow as a person if I read every day, worked out every day, and listened to good audio every day? I mean, there's gonna be monumental growth for me as a person. And that's what the whole point of even the goals that we're trying to set for ourselves and these different things that we're obtaining. It is not the goal that is the goal. It is who you get to become in the process of attaining those goals that is the important aspect of what we're after. That is the championship right there, is when you're able to feel like nobody can take away the fact that I am a champion of character for myself. And I'm not trying to steal the NAI slogan or anything like that, but it's just a matter of those are the personal victories that last longer than trophies. When you get to say for yourself, I accomplished something, because then as we naturally fall, regress, and do these different things, those are the strong anchors that we pull and hang on to know that this is where we can go. And we're replacing the past anchors of the failures that we were used to holding on to. And not to go too deep into anything for anything so long, but I'm speaking from a personal aspect of having peaks and valleys of my disciplines, just like Alan speaking of himself. I had a lack of discipline at 18 that ruined a full ride football scholarship that I earned for myself. A kicker, so kind of a football player. I don't obviously look like some kind of linebacker or anything like that, but I ran for myself for a very long time. And it wasn't until then I decided to come back into sports. And for you young kids, Jim, this is for your kids. You do not get to go back and play junior college baseball at 30 years old, okay? That's not your path. That's not what you're not going to have a wife likely that allows you to do that. And there's better options for you before you go down that road, guys, for sure. You get plenty of time to not waste it. But what I'm saying is I had to get everything right there. I had to make some monumental changes that got my discipline in order. But then you get comfortable again. And that's where right now I finally found myself where this was going, kind of finding this being placed on my heart, this being a calling that was given to me was, dude, yeah, awesome. You accomplished that, but I'm bored with your own story. That was not the point. The point wasn't to just do that. It was to get to where you were going to go and then see farther. And that's with everything that we're trying to get to. We are mostly, it's either growth or decline. And I choose growth for myself. Austin, I appreciate you jumping on, man. I know you're working out for yourself. Just to let everybody know, Austin, I had a pleasure of coaching Austin in my summer league team last year, and he's playing ball at App State right now for himself. So he's gonna go out there. He's gonna be having an awesome year this year. You guys are gonna be seeing him do some stuff for sure.
Hey, good stuff, Kirk. Gordy, did you want to add anything or ask anything? Got to unmute. There you go.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. I'm maybe almost 3 times the age of some people on here, but all this stuff. And I've been a college coach for 35 years.
Wow.
So,
good for you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. All of this stuff that we talk about is a constant daily issue for all of us. And just doing this it helps to inspire. For example, I've used the justification that I leave my grand dog at home all day long, so I skip my workout in the evening. And so just the last 2 days, I've just made sure that that's something that I do and not worry about the dog so much, and it seems like a minor thing, but she'll wait for me. She's going to love me anyway, and and all that. But I'm listening to a book right now by what's it called? Start Where You Are. It's called Pema Chodron, I think. Anyway, she talks in there about when we go back to thoughts, all the thoughts we have, and I know just we have, I don't know, 50 or 60,000 thoughts a day, and so many of them are repeating. But one of the things that we have to recognize when we're trying to focus on something, but we've got all these thoughts going in, is that she suggests just label it as a thought, and that's all it is, and then let it go. And so even though I've been working on this stuff since I started coaching in the late 70s, we have to remind ourselves every single day, because we get out of all those habits and we can find ourselves starting over again. So I appreciate this opportunity to remind myself.
Gordy, that's awesome, man. I appreciate your service to the game for this long, and I hope that genuinely I get an opportunity for myself as well to get a chance to say that I've been able to be an impactful player in the game for that long, because I'm sure at this point the major reward for yourself, regardless of the wins, regardless of the different things that are coming, the rewards are the young men getting to come back and show you the young men that they turned into.
Yeah, no doubt that's exactly what it is. And that's where we go right back to the beginning of this whole Zoom session, talking about, what do you do when a guy's late? And I've learned, and after all these years, that the more I can just be genuine, then the easier it is to discipline the players. And realistically, I'm not really disciplining them. They understand that I'm genuine, that I care about them, I love them, and nothing ever gets further than what it has to be. So there's no real discipline. It's all self-discipline or respect or whatever you want to call it.
That's really, really cool, man. Corey, that's awesome. That's it's inspiring. You've been doing it so long. You know what else is inspiring? And it's good for all of us, which is, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing something, that just like I said with myself, I mean, this is going back 30 years, but it is something that it's challenging. And it's like being in a community like this is great, because we can all realize that, hey, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one that's dealing with these. In fact, I was joking with Kirk before the call, and I said to him, the people that are going to be on this call, ironically, they're the ones that are more open and receptive to the path of more resistance in a way, because the ones that see the word discipline, maybe at first are like, oh, that might be cool to listen to, but this goes back to Jim with the behavioral patterning, right? And they see the word discipline, and subconsciously it's like, I don't know if I really want to do something that's going to have me do more work or whatever. There seems like there's a path. So I was telling Kirk, the people that are going to be on the Zoom call, ironically, are the ones that are actually open and receptive and ready to make changes in their life. It's not a guarantee, but I felt for sure. And so Gordy, I'm kind of echoing in a way things that you're saying as well, that it just shows you that, that we're, first of all, awareness, as I know someone said earlier, self-awareness. Awareness to me it's just one of the most important words in the English language. Life is, to me, as much as anything, it is about having the ability to have awareness, because without awareness, how are you going to make adjustments? Otherwise, there goes that autopilot, which if you're in a game and you're on autopilot, that's a good thing. I get it. But, if we're in life and there's things we need to adjust, right, and we're not aware, or we don't want to be aware, maybe it's a different way of saying it. That's the part where it's kind of sad that there's people that maybe really do want to grow, but they're just sort of in that loop with the programming. And so that's why I feel like people on this call are going to, have a sense of awareness about this. Kirk, let's do the buddy. I'm sorry, did you want to say something?
Well, I was just going to elaborate on that as far as the sort of a stigma aspect. Most of this is in the dark. Well, why would this be an individual thing, like of growth, of communication, of we all feel the same dang feelings of pain, of love, of joy, regret, of just these different human emotions, yet we turn a little bit of a blind eye of how they could be propellers forward instead of necessarily things that are holding us back, because that's just not what things are at. We're not these rocks, that don't feel, and just we feel. We are human creatures, and that's why even with these disciplines and even these growth aspects that we're making, that's why you better have some kind of system in place, because of all those thoughts, just like you said that you had, Gordy, and everybody has every single day. There's no way that we can make that many amount of actions to pair it, but we have to be able to have some kind of filter that allows things to know what's going through. And the more strength that you have and what your mission is for the day, your purpose is for your life, it's going to make it that much easier to dismiss that thought and remove it from your equation of success for yourself. And Alan, I know that I want to get into this buddy system as well too, but if you don't mind, I wanted to ask Jim's kids a chance to speak for themselves real fast and ask any questions that a brief question that they might have.
Yeah, I agree with everything that has been said. I especially agree about with all the thoughts that we have, 50,000 thoughts that we have every day. And if you can name those thoughts and replace those thoughts with more useful things, then you can be more productive throughout the day.
We're going to be okay in life for sure. Awesome. Good kids, Jim. Appreciate it for sure. And,
Thank you.
you're going to make me have to be doing some diving into Trotsky a little bit more as well too. I mean, I'm from the California area, so I mean, I know I've heard it for forever, but I'm understanding there's a dang good reason why they're going where they're going.
Yep, absolutely. Because they give the kids a system. They give them something concrete to, like Caden said, to replace. If you have a negative thought on the mound, here's how you turn that around very quickly. But I think getting back to the theme of the night, the discipline to stick with that process is what I think they teach very, very well. Because otherwise kids just don't have, the resources to fall back on when they give up a home run or strike out or whatever, and so they give them the tools necessary. It's just a matter of them sticking to that process.
Right. Alan, I want you to go ahead and take the buddy system away for ourselves. We'll have a couple more thoughts, and then I'm gonna wrap her on up and get us on the closing, because guys, I'm sure we could easily repeat the epic 5-hour night, but we'll if we're hungry, and I love what my head coach, Coach Lowe, says is you leave them hungry. And if this is something that's been impactful in any of the slightest ways, next week's topic will be accountability. So it's not that much off of discipline itself, but this is going to be something that we get to do as a community, building weekly. And that doesn't mean you have to be here every week, but they'll be recorded, they'll be placed on the site, and it's where you're at and your different timings. You'll be able to pick them up and be an active participant for yourself if not. But that's the beauty of what building a big community will be able to have is, hey, there might be the same people sometimes, and there might be a completely new group of people for sure, but we get an opportunity to continue being the people that move things forward for ourselves. And I really appreciate you guys being here with that being said for sure. So Alan, go ahead and take it away with a little bit of a accountability buddy system that we got.
Yeah, thanks, Kirk. This will be quick, guys. I know it's late, so we can wrap it on this. Caden, I just want to say that you said one of the most important things I think we could have heard tonight, which is we have these thoughts, but we want to replace them with useful thoughts. And what you said is really important, because you not only are aware that the thoughts are there, but you're aware of a tool and a strategy, and it's very powerful. Trotsky is one of my closest friends in the world, and on a side note, when Trotsky and I text each other, just so you know, it's the same stuff. Like it's acronyms, it's, you know, we do some talking, but there's always, every text we both write to each other has some of those acronyms or something in there, because you become what you practice, as you've heard me say tonight. He does live it, and he is it. And he is actually one of the most disciplined and remarkable people I know, from the point of view of, he is just spewing out constant messaging that is supporting and promoting so much of what we're talking about tonight. And it's real. And he's impressive. He inspires me. I feel lucky that he's as good of a friend as he is, because even if I get a one-line text from him, it shifts my energy. And I've just had so many deep conversations with him, and he's a deep cat, as you know, and he gives you tools, and those tools are, every time he posts something for a camp, and I promise we'll get to the last part, I retweet it all the time, and I actually put hashtag life changer. And I know to some people that might sound dramatic. I couldn't be more serious when I hashtag. So if you don't know Trotsky, go to YouTube. He actually has one of the coolest videos on YouTube for any walk of life. I believe it's called something about the sixth tool, but you'll see the video because he's standing with a bunch of kids against the fence, and you just have to watch it. It's really, really impressive. Anything with Nate is impressive. So if you don't know Nate, I would urge you to go onto YouTube and check him out. He's a life changer, and he's a life changer in 5 minutes. So anyway, as far as the buddy system, you know, Kirk and I talked about this before we came on, because discipline is so challenging and so difficult, as we've all come to the conclusion tonight. Maybe at least until we get that train rolling, right? It helps early on to maybe have a support system. And I've never done this before, but I came up with this because I need help. Or I want accountability. I want support. So Kirk and I, at some point tonight or tomorrow, I'm going to pick something, and he's going to pick something for this week. And really, it could be something simple. It doesn't have to be massive. It's just something I'm kind of like, you know, that's doable. Like, I think mine's going to be wherever I have to be, even if it's a Zoom call or whatever, or if I tell someone I'm calling them at 4 o'clock, I am going to, like, that's my accountability. And that's what I'm going to report back to Kirk. And I'm not saying I'm going to be perfect, but knowing I have a buddy to be accountable to, I feel like, and I'm sure this is what happens with AA and stuff like that, right? So, no, I don't know, but I do know. Because we know in all walks of life, there's sponsors. So I would say, you know, tomorrow, maybe whoever one of your best friends is, or your spouse, or whoever fits that role that you feel comfortable doing this with. And Jim's got 2 kids right there, so he can do it with the 2 kids. But I would say reach out to somebody and just say, hey, there's this one thing I've been wanting to work on and change in my life. And so for this week, I'd like to have you as my accountability partner. And if there's something that you have that you feel like, because everybody's going to have something probably, right? Unless they're living on a mountaintop, and you know where I'm going. But if you can find one thing with each other, again, we talked about this at the beginning, make it achievable. Don't make it too grandiose to where it's going to be overkill and almost, you know, tough out the gate. Make it reasonable, but make it fair to yourself, where deep down you're like, yeah, it's going to be a little resistance, and yeah, it might be challenging, but deep down it's right. 3 times a week is right. Once a week is right. So every day for 10 minutes is right. You're going to know what right is. Going back to Matt, when you prompt your kids what's going on in their life, this is a practice with yourself. You're going to go, okay, what do I need to work on? Or what do I need to stop doing? What's reasonable, so I don't stress myself out and I don't overkill this thing, but I want to give myself a chance to do this right. And I just feel like having a buddy, or a quote unquote like a sponsor, It already makes me feel more relaxed and more, actually, it makes me feel more driven to stick with the routine by knowing Kirk is going to be there, not to beat me with a stick if I don't do it, but he's just going to be somewhere that there to answer to besides myself, so that I have a harder time justifying and rationalizing, because I'm going to convey to him what mine is, how many times I need to do it, or whatever the quantifying is. He's going to go, cool, I got it, and then he's going to give me his, and then we're going to check in. I'd probably would just say check in every day. It could be literally, it could be 90 seconds.
Exactly.
You just check in. You ask your friend, hey, how you doing? Great. Here, or you can write and say, hey, just to let you know, so far so good. So try the buddy system. Some of you guys that are really good with this kind of stuff, you might say, I don't really need somebody. If I put my mind to do it, I'm going to do it. And that's great. But I think for most human beings, back to Jim again, I just think it's just, there's something in us from maybe when we're just our formative years growing up, and it's not right or wrong. It's just what is, and for a lot of people. So,
Alan, can I add on that real fast?
Yeah.
Find somebody that wants to see you win at what we're doing. You that partner has got to be somebody that you want in your corner as well. And that's just even a part of what this is you're building wins into your week of things that you can accomplish. And as athletes, we like winning. And if we can check off those boxes of things that we did that we know are heading to a better self, and then know, okay, what can I do next week? So it's not a one and done, it's a building block into the growth. But just like Alan said, of not dumping too much on your plate at one time. Let's get those wheels moving. Let's get the ball rolling and find for yourself some of those things. And you know what? If you want it to be me, I'm all ears. Go to, email me on the site or whatever the case is going to be. I'll pop my email here in the chat. You guys all probably are following me on Twitter or know how to find me on Twitter, because that's how we got on here. So, I mean, send me a message. I'm all in. If I get a chance to be any partial second of a positive influence in your day, man, please, I'm more than willing. But on top of that, there's other people in your life that want to see you win as well too, and those are usually the people that most of us are gravitating towards and continuing to want to see us better ourselves.
Pick somebody who's going to hold you to your accountability. That's a good one too. Make it someone who is going to make you accountable. And I think that was a really good ad, Kirk. So thank you.
I appreciate that. And well, guys, I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get her towards wrapped up here and take us out on a little bit of a closing. But before I did that, I wanted to give Alan back the floor real fast to be able to say his piece as well too. But I won't say this in the next part. But man, I'm just thankful that you guys let me flap my gums for 2 hours at you and with Alan and had a good year with all the faces on the screen. I mean, I don't need 100,000 people. I need this group right here. I need the people in front of my face that want to be involved in their own rescue, because that's how I feel about myself. I need to be involved in saving my own dang life, because I know that my past personally is just built on self-destruction. And it's because I didn't have any structure and in that guidance, and now just even being able to have any opportunity of a small community, and even the community that Alan and Coach Sheets are being a part of building, and just learning about the different peoples of the Trotsky's and the different people, like, you're in the right place. So just take it to where it's at and build those relationships, reach out to people that you feel like are going to make you grow, and take those chances. And you're going to be dang surprised how many people that you don't know want to see you better than some of the people that you do know. And I think that's just been an awesome part of my own human experience, is getting to see how genuine people that don't have any knowledge of who I am, are still willing to give me all of themselves. And I just want nothing else but to be able to reciprocate that back to to the group and to everybody else that I get an opportunity to be around. Sorry for a second closing, Alan, but sorry about that.
No, listen, Kirk, thanks for having me on. Thank you to everybody, spending a couple hours is a long time to, sacrifice your valuable time. So thank you to everybody sincerely. And I would personally love it. If you're on Twitter, you can just DM us. I'd love to hear if you guys try that exercise out over the next week. I would love feedback to see how it's going, or maybe you just do some self-imposed discipline on yourself and see how that works out. But that's why we do this stuff. We love teaching, we love growing, we love feedback. So please feel free to share it. And I'm available, as you guys probably know, through Twitter. If you have a comment or a question or feedback as well, you can hit me up there. And last thing is, Kirk, you introduced me as the godfather of mental game, but I think we're going to give the godfather piece to Ken. Ken Revissa and Bob Rattel has been doing a long time, but I'm just happy to be part. I'm happy to be part of the, I guess the support and the movement to bring this to, people's awareness. But again, I can't thank everybody enough for being on. Caden and Caden's younger brother, we didn't get your first name, but thank you guys, the family Stoops, and really everybody for jumping on. This has been a treat. And I know I will, selfishly, I'm going to get off of this Zoom call and it will help my life out. So I truly thank everybody.
I appreciate it. And guys, in closing, like, here we are, we're putting one foot in front of another, trying to build momentum towards finding other like-minded people who are interested in learning about the things that they can do to get a little bit better every day. And a brief summarized story about the oil well called Spindletop, which is the single greatest producing oil well in U.S. history, speaks of how the man was offered the chance to have a company dig on his land for the chance to find oil, and they would pay him per barrel for if they found it. Nothing to lose, everything to gain. So he did it, and up it came. Instant millionaire. Or was he? Did he have it all along? We have a lot underneath the surface, but until we bring it to the top and take it into the world, we will never realize how we can be those things. So this is not a quick fix. Does not exist. Everything worthwhile takes persistent and consistent action, but it all lives within you already. But good intentions must be supported by effective actions. David Bird. Remember, guys, again, failure is an event, not a person, from Zig Ziglar, but you are what you are and where you are because of what goes into your mind. And you can change what you are and where you are because of what goes into your mind. So thank you for taking your time this evening. Thank you to Alan Jaeger for being such a positive influence to myself. I'm really rooting for everything that guy does. And, thank you, everybody. And I hope you guys have a great night. I hope you guys go and have an awesome week. And if I get the pleasure of having you on again next weekend, I can't wait.
Awesome. Thanks again, Kirk. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
Really appreciate your time. Thank you, guys.